Hi, I'm Glenn Huey, Senior Editor with Popular Woodworking Magazine. The joiner's my tool of choice for tapering legs. Whether I'm doing 1 or 100 pieces, I can get consistent, repeatable results. There's a little setup at the tool and a little layout work on your leg, then you're ready to go. Let's come in, take a look at how we're going to set up the joiner. Now, in setting up for tapering legs at your joiner, you're probably going to use the joiner a little differently than what you normally do. Instead of that 1/16 or maximum 1/8 of an inch cut that you take at your joiner, we're going to set it up to cut half of the total amount of taper. Now, in our example, we're going to taper 2 sides of our legs at 3/4 of an inch. So we need to set the depth of cut at 3/8 of an inch here at our joiner. So I've taken a scrap piece, made a cut after I'd set it to the scale, and then I'm going to reinforce that and make sure my measurements are correct by using my rule to check my cut. Now, this is a place to fine-tune anything. If you need to be a little stronger or a little weaker, make your adjustments right here. Once you've got it set, we're ready to move on to the next step. Now, the next step at the joiner is to find the location where the cut begins. To find the line location on our fence, we need to put our square up against the blade of the joiner with the joiner unplugged. Rotate the head towards us until the square stops moving. At that point, that's exactly the start of the cut. I'm going to transfer that line right onto our fence. Make sure it's extended above the area where your stock will be so you can line up the 2 lines, and we're ready to go. So, with everything in place, we've got our line location where our cut begins, we've got our depth of cut set, we're ready to look towards our stock to see what layout marks have to be done on the stock in order to pull this together and start tapering. Now, the layout on the stock is very simple. There's 2 lines or 2 points that you have to locate. The first is the line below the apron, and that is the total amount of taper. So from the bottom of the leg up to this line is the total amount that we're going to taper. The most important line is this one here. This line is exactly the midpoint or half of the total taper length. Once you find that line, go ahead and draw in all 4 sides, carry that line all the way around. This line is the line that's going to match up with our layout line on our fence, and we're going to cut to that on our first step. Let's take a look at that. Making the first cut here at the joiner is very simple. You're going to use the joiner just as you normally do. We're going to start with our stock square down against our fence and our table base, and we're going to push the cut through until our layout line on our stock and our layout line on our fence meet at the exact same place. We're going to then remove the stock from the cut, rotate it 90 degrees, and make a second pass doing the exact same thing until our layout lines meet. Now, the next pass that we have to make, we have to reverse the direction of cut. So now we're taking our previously cut area, bringing it away from the blade towards us. And I'm going to rotate this back so I've got my first side set. You can see right in this area that I have the cut area down towards the bed of the joiner. Now, the idea here is to rock this down tight. You can see what I'm actually doing. I'm actually creating a wheelie effect on the front half of this. And I'm going to put my pressure here behind this first line that we did because that's the 2 points of contact with the table. Then I'm going to move forward. As I move forward, you'll notice that as we get to this first layout line, which is the top edge of our taper, as it aligns with the line on our fence, that's where you'll hear the cutting start. At that point, it's going to taper from that point clear down through the end. What happens is you barely cut right at the beginning. You cut 3/8 of an inch right here at this point of contact, then almost nothing until we get to our end, and it slowly tapers an additional 3/8 off. So we took 3/8 on the first pass, we'll pull 3/8 off on this pass, and that's our total 3/4 of an inch taper. So you can see we're making this taper in 2 cuts. And that's what makes it so interesting to do here at the joiner. Let's take a look at how this works. And there's our tapered leg. Everything would work the same. It's perfectly tapered from top to bottom. We've got a nice consistent cut that's ready to go right to a finishing process of either a hand plane or sanding. There's no ragged edges to work with. And as long as we hit the marks, we can do 1, 4, or 400 of these legs, and they're all going to turn out identical. Now, one thing that I do want to note is we've shown you this whole technique with our blade guard removed. There's no reason to have the blade guard removed other than so you could see this technique. With everything in place with your guard back on your machine, the setup, the workings are exactly the same. Make sure to keep the blade guard in place and it'll work fine for you this way. Now, the other great thing about this whole tapering idea is we've tapered 2 sides. You can also do the same technique for tapering 4 sides. The only thing that needs to change is going to be the depth of cut. And that has to be always 1/2 of the total amount you're removing on the taper. So it's a great process. Give it a shot. See what you think about it. I think it's the tool to use, and I think once you do it, you'll never look for another way to taper your legs. I know I didn't. That's what makes it